If you've ever been in a long-term relationship and felt like you are alone in it or unwanted in it, it can be one of the loneliest and most painful feelings because part of you is thinking, I'm in a relationship. I should feel good. I should feel connected. Why isn't this happening? And that can leave you feeling more confused and more overwhelmed than ever. So in today's video, I am going to break down for you why it is that people end up in this situation, most often anxious attachment styles and even fearful avoidance. We're going to go through 5 things that you can do to get to the bottom of whether or not you should be leaving this relationship or staying in it and building, and the big places that relationships break down that cause people to end up in these particular scenarios. If you're new here, hello and welcome. My name is Gibson. I'm the founder of Gibson Integrated Attachment Theory and the Personal Development School, and I've been working as a coach and counselor with people for the last going on 14 years. Let's break this down. Here's the first thing that I want you to be able to do, which is just honor your feelings, okay? Yes, you're feeling this way, and there's actually a reason for it, and probably a couple of reasons for it, that of which we're going to explore so you can finally put your finger on what's actually going wrong and what's taking place. Because honestly, this is a problem I would see with so many clients, so many people, and one of the most challenging parts is that they first felt so confused because they couldn't understand why they felt like this or what led their relationship to get to that point. So first thing, step 1 of 5 is going to be honor your feelings. This is your truth. This is happening for a reason. And I'm going to help you figure out what that reason is. And sort of along this line of step 1, I want you to first try to name what type of unwanted or loneliness you're feeling in this relationship. Do you feel unseen? Do you feel like you're not being chosen? Do you feel like you're not being pursued or, wanted in that kind of physical sense in a relationship? Do you feel like you're not protected? Nobody has your back in this relationship the way that you'd hope? Or do you feel it's more like underappreciated? Okay, so I want you to just start by being like, I'm feeling this way for a reason, but what is that reason? Okay, and try to just notice what comes up. And I'm going to help you now break down in step 2 here the major reasons that people end up in this type of scenario. And for some of you listening, you might be going through this thinking, oh, for me, it was all of the above. It was all of those things. And that is perfectly okay too. It's just really important that you're able to start putting words to your emotions so that we can now unpack and understand them better and know how to start resolving them. Step 2 is I want you to start noticing what some of the biggest breakdowns are here. So you know what you're feeling and what's going on. Now we're going to talk about the key issues as to why this happens. One of the first reasons in step 2 that this happens is because there's a difference in how you give and receive love. Sometimes this is a love language issue. If you're familiar with Dr. Gary Chapman's 5 love languages, you know that we have 5 ways that we give and receive love. And sometimes this can be one of the simplest places that people and relationships break down. Those love languages are quality time, physical touch, acts of service, which is like doing things for people, bringing them coffee in bed, cooking them a meal, these types of things. Then we have words of affirmation and gifts. So we all have different ways that we tend to give and receive love. We usually have more than one really prevalent love language. And sometimes we get into marriages or long-term relationships where you just have a difference in love languages. And that's going to lead to feelings like, okay, I'm giving love, but I'm not receiving love. And sometimes you are receiving love, but it's in the way that your partner or spouse is used to giving love. And sometimes that's not what's landing for you. Okay, so for example, I remember learning about the 5 love languages and at the time having a family member and reassessing my childhood and being like, oh, interesting. My family member was always giving me love through a lot of like acts of service. But for me, my big love languages are quality time and the ability to like really break down and have meaningful conversations, and then physical touch. And my family member was very much acts of service and gifts, and realizing, oh, wow. And just noticing that helped me really unpack, oh, this is so interesting. My family member was giving me so much love growing up in ways that weren't necessarily clicking or landing for me. And it was very helpful to start to bridge that gap. Okay. That's one of the easiest places things break down. I'm going to give you another one is a misunderstanding of one another's needs. Some people in a relationship, they need more validation, reassurance. They need somebody to be more present and attuned to them. They want to feel like that person's protecting them. And that's how they really, truly feel connected. And for other people, they need to feel like their freedom, their autonomy, their independence is being honored. They want to feel appreciated in relationships and acknowledged for showing up They are very sensitive to criticism in relationships. People are going to have different needs here. And when we don't understand that these things are at play, then again, we often miss the mark in how we're giving and receiving love. So you can think of love languages and needs as being things that are sort of going hand in hand in many ways. Needs are often just a more specific version of love languages. I don't want you to worry about all of that right now. I want you to just start by thinking about, is this like a communication issue in terms of how we're trying to love each other? And maybe that's what's going wrong. And just start to get those wheels turning. I'm going to take you through future steps that will be able to pinpoint this a little bit more. The next thing is I want you to ask yourself, maybe it's some of these things. Maybe it's that there's a lack of us prioritizing the relationship. Things are busy. I'm feeling disconnected or unwanted or alone because maybe you have 3 kids in the relationship and very busy careers, and there's a lot of demands on your life, and you're not making those appropriate pockets of time to actually make the relationship and the connection a priority. So I want you to just tap into that, see if that rings true for you. And then we have another really big piece here, which is that resentment might be blocking you. Okay. This is one of the biggest places that relationships go off the rails. And resentment is usually a whole bunch of unmet needs and a lack of communication. And then you feel like, hey, my partner's supposed to be the one showing up for me and loving me and caring for me, and they're not. And when you don't know how to bridge that gap and communicate about those things, you feel like you're just constantly drifting apart. And that resentment that you're carrying in your mind, in your heart, that's actually creating a wall between you and your partner. Okay. So I want you to just start noticing so far. This is like our audit, first couple of steps. What was it? Was it you feeling unchosen or unseen or unwanted? Like, what was the big thing that's causing you to feel like you've drifted so far apart? And then what do I think these fundamental breakdowns are that are happening here? Okay. And now step 3 is I'm going to take you through a way to start communicating about needs so that if there is a dynamic where your needs are not being met in a relationship and vice versa, you can start bridging that gap. And then we're going to talk about how to move through resentment. Okay. This is going to allow you to start knowing when you can take steps forward. And at the end of this video, I'm going to take you through, is there a time where we should actually just be considering not investing in the relationship in the same way, moving apart from the relationship? Is there a time before we get married or spend our lives together that maybe this is not the right situation for us? Like, how to really know. Okay. So next thing is step 3 of 5 is if you feel like there is a difference in your love languages or needs, okay, there's things that you're wanting and you receive as love in relationship and your partner does not, what I highly recommend is that you sit down with your partner and you say, hey, let's have a discussion. What ways do you most feel loved? Like, when which things happen in a relationship, do you feel like you light up the most? And if you have a partner who wants to say, oh, I don't really need anything from somebody in a relationship, instead of framing it as needs, frame it as, hey, these are things that make us feel the most loved and connected. What are your top ones here if you had to circle a top 5? And here are my top 5. And then I want you to ask each other in this relationship, do we feel like we're recognizing each other's and pouring in to give love and care in the way that one another need? Or are we often giving love and care and connection the way that we would need? So a lot of times, for example, you can have somebody who's more anxious and they want validation and reassurance and they want to feel like they're a priority. And so they love their partner that way. But sometimes their partner wants more sincere forms of appreciation and acknowledgement and acceptance because those are more their needs. Okay. Now, I do talk a lot about on this channel that each attachment style tends to have different needs. I will rifle some off. This comes from Gibson integrated attachment theory, this body of work where we started pairing what attachment styles have, which core wounds, which needs. We published this in 2016, but I'll just tell you at a very high level, a lot of anxious attachment styles, they need that validation, reassurance, acceptance. They want to feel loved. They want to feel like they are a priority. They want intimacy, closeness. They're much more hands-on and touchy-feely, and affectionate is a big need for them in a relationship. And then we have dismissive avoidance. They tend to very much value having this sense of freedom, autonomy, independence, but they really respond well to appreciation and acknowledgement. And also, they very much respond to feeling accepted, supported, and empathized with. If somebody's trying to get to know them or understand them, it goes a long way. And fearful avoidance, they have a little bit of both of those needs. That's why you should have a really specific conversation with fearful avoidance, but they really want to feel like they are wanted, prioritized, but they also want to feel like there's novelty in the relationship, that there's depth of communication, depth of feeling seen and known and understanding each other. And they really want to feel like they can have freedom and that there's passion, that there's excitement, that there's spontaneity at times in the relationship. And they obviously really need as a baseline a certain degree of trust and safety. I just want to jump in here and let you know that we are doing a 14-day free trial to the All Access Membership Pass at PDS, which means you get access to literally everything inside of the school. And this includes the 4 live webinars I do with our students every single week. And on top of that, you get access to all of our different courses. We have over 55 different courses on relationships, communication, boundaries, emotional mastery, guilt and shame, learning your needs, so many different facets that are really important to master our lives and feel really good about our lives going forward. And last but not least, there's a daily community event. We have trained facilitators and coaches who are in there doing that work, showing up to support you on your journey every single day. Please join me on the other side. Come check it out. See if it's a fit for you. I'd love to see you there. Go ahead and sign up by clicking the link in the description box below. What we've just reviewed so far, and I'm going to take you through the next steps, are you've learned what are my actual feelings? What am I experiencing? Am I feeling unwanted? Am I feeling like I'm not being prioritized, or do I feel unseen or unchosen or unprotected or underappreciated? Like, what are those actual themes? Put your emotions into words so now you can pinpoint them. Then what is the key root behind this? Is it a love language or needs difference? Is it resentment? Is it us not prioritizing the relationship? We talked about needs and what to do with that. Sit down, have a conversation, and then make an active habit each week where you're like, we're going to sit down and each week we're going to check in with each other's needs. And we're going to ask, what would meeting your needs look like for you in this marriage or in this relationship? Here's what it would look like for me. And when you share, you're then going to actively try to bridge that gap. Okay. And just that will be life-changing for a relationship if you start to commit to it. I know some of you are sitting here thinking, well, what if my partner doesn't want to commit or have that conversation or even try? That's going to be what we're going to talk about at the end of this video. Okay. So have a conversation about needs, start to identify them, start to actually try to habituate into your relationship ways to meet the needs. Step 4, if you are finding that you are not having this prioritization in your relationship because things are busy, I will tell you, sometimes you think you can't afford, you don't have the time to invest in each other in a relationship. You can't afford not to. One of the most expensive things people go through in a marriage, in a divorce, is how much it disrupts their financial life. And sometimes you think, oh, I have to work the extra hours, I have to do these things. If you want to be in a long-term successful relationship, and if you are committed to this person, especially if you're living with them or you have kids or you're planning a future, you need to sit down and be having these types of conversations where you're like, no, we're going to make the relationship a priority. Even if it's something like a 15-minute ritual where you have a coffee together every morning for 15 minutes and you get up 15 minutes earlier, or you drop the kids off at school 15 minutes earlier and you come back and you sit for that 15 minutes then, like whatever it is, you need to find pockets of time to make the relationship a priority, to feel like you're connecting to one another. And I very much recommend having a date night once every week or once every 2 weeks. And date night doesn't have to be that you're spending all this money and going out for dinner. It can be that you go for a picnic. It can be that you go for a walk. It can be that you do something that literally brings you together to be present and in connection with one another. And date nights should not be you sit and you watch television together. That's not a date night. That's you connecting to the television while in each other's company, not connecting to each other. Okay. So I want you to really think about, do I need to make the relationship more of a priority? Sometimes things get busy. What would that look like for you to prioritize that relationship in a healthier way? And then the very last piece here is if you struggle with resentment. If you struggle with resentment, it's usually because there's a big, long history of feeling misunderstood, feeling like your needs are not being met is usually what it's boiling down to, and you're not talking about it. And then it triggers these wounds. You blame each other and you feel like, oh, see, this person, they don't love me. They don't care about me. I'm unloved or I'm unworthy. And we tend to project these wounds onto the relationship. This is really going to go back to what I talked about earlier, which is have the needs discussion. Once you start meeting each other's needs and trying to meet each other halfway, you're going to see momentum. And the more that you feel like you can communicate to your partner and resolve things, resentment comes from a lack of resolution. When you start resolving things, when you start communicating, when you start letting your guard down and having these discussions, the needle moves and things change. Okay, this is extremely important. Now, if you're in a relationship where somebody refuses to do the work, somebody refuses to heal, refuses to grow, then that's a different conversation. If somebody's like, I don't want to talk about needs, I'm not going to ever talk about needs, I don't want to have these conversations in a relationship. If you're in that kind of connection or relationship, then what you need to be doing instead is sitting down and asking yourself, especially if you haven't committed to this as a long-term relationship yet, how long am I going to put up with somebody who's not doing the work with me? Because relationships require work. Just like if you're going to grow in your career or a job and you want to feel successful and fulfilled, you're going to put work in, right? You're going to grow. You're going to take different certifications over time to improve your value in the marketplace, in the workplace. The things that we want to thrive in are going to require some degree of growth and maintenance. You're not going to have, your health in the long term if you never take care of your body, if you never sleep properly, if you never exercise or move. All of these things matter. And if you want to have a successful relationship, it will require some degree of work. There's no getting around that. And you are either going to be growing together or growing apart. And it's pretty binary at the end of the day. And so, what I want you to really think about is if this person is not doing any work with me in the relationship, I'm going to have that conversation. I'm going to ask them, look, I believe relationships require some degree of work. Are you willing to meet me there? Are you willing to do a little bit of work? Are you willing to talk about needs a little bit? Are you willing to, have pockets of time that we sit down and we go for a date and we make that effort together? Are you willing to do that a little bit? And if not, I would like you to tell me now. I would like to know that that's something you're unwilling to do. Here's what it would look like for me in a perfect world. It would look like a date night every week or bi-weekly. It would look like being in a position where, we talk about needs once a week and we have a little needs check-in. Are you open to doing that at any point in time? If somebody is going to tell you, no, I'm sorry, but they're probably not going to be a great partner long term because each person in a relationship is 100% responsible for their 50%. And one person cannot carry the emotional load all by themselves all the time. It's simply not possible. You can't have a functioning relationship that way when one person is doing all the work and the other person's doing nothing. So I want you to sit with that and evaluate that. And ideally, you set a deadline for how long you're going to do the work single-handedly and see if this, you can be patient or the person comes around and you should set a deadline. Like, I'm going to try really hard for a month or 2 months. And if this person doesn't get on board or if the needle's not moving the way that I want, I would be reconsidering a future because you can't stay in this dynamic and always be lonely and alone in a relationship where nobody's participating with you. That is it for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, and this was helpful for you, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching. See you next time.